All right, well, welcome to the Library Board meeting of March 19th, 2019. Let's call the meeting to order. It is 5:05 p.m. And will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. May I have roll call, please?
All right. Aaron.
Here.
Tony.
Here.
Tracy.
Here.
Barb.
Here.
Robin.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Gail.
It's here.
And Camille.
Here.
All right, and Alderman Kapusta is absent.
All right. Statement of public notice.
It was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law.
Thank you. Public comments. No one here from the general public this evening. So we'll move into consent agenda. Looking for approval. I will entertain a motion for approval for the consent agenda. It consists of two items. Looks like approval of minutes from the February 19th, 2019 meeting, and to place on file the library financial reports for February 2019. Do I have a motion?
I so move. I second.
Barb, thank you. Thank you. Further discussion?
I got a couple things. I finally found them. Okay. Is this part of it? The budget worksheet library one, or is that afterwards? Where does the consent agenda stop? At this stuff?
The consent agenda
Stop here.
stops at packet page, nope, not 11, 13.
Oh, it does include this. Okay, good. That was far away. On packet page 10, office supplies and expenses, there's a negative number. Did you like do a return? It just seemed like kind of a strange thing there.
Let's take a look. You said 10, office supplies and expenses.
So there's a negative 146.41.
Oh.
It just jumped out at me that there was
Yeah.
a negative in there, so
Yeah,
I'm
that's...
assuming that's an error, but maybe not.
Let me think here. Yep, that was a return.
It's a return, okay.
Yeah.
And maybe this question can be answered later on, but on packet page 11, we've got a total on the bottom, and then 3 up. We've got the room rental at almost 144%, meaning we're already 44% over budget, but then when you look at the numbers a bit later on, we are way below, so I just, am I making sense?
You're asking if, because in the monthly report, which is on packet page 16, under meeting room use, we were 22.8% under for January and 4.3% under for...
Yeah, and yet
Yep.
it's showing us being way over for
Yeah.
this budget line item, and certainly the numbers are the same, so...
Right, so the meeting room use amount, which is on packet page 16, is just the total amount of groups who have reserved the rooms, and we are down for the year so far. Nobody, apparently, this January and February was hard on people, I guess.
Yeah.
However,
But we're up in dollars.
but we're up in dollars, which means we have more
can that
paid.
be?
We have more paid
Oh,
reservations.
versus people who
yeah.
use that for, there you
Yeah.
go.
So
That's
I
the
mean, even
difference.
though we're
Okay.
down, we've already for the year had quite a few people who have needed to pay for.
Yeah, versus the nonprofits
Correct.
who don't.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions?
We missed that last one.
Not a half, don't you?
Well, I'm back. Everyone. All right. Well, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. President's report. No formal report this evening. So let's get into the director's report, please.
All right. Our painting with Tanya classes. This is something new. By the way, Elka is here today. As you remember from the last meeting, during my my slight disappearing act, which will occur around the end of May because the baby's not coming early. Elka was named interim director, and so because we're doing the budget discussion now, I just wanted her here, just as a matter of course. So thank you, Elka, for being here. So yeah, the painting with Tanya classes have been very popular. I think the first one we maybe were almost full, and then the second one we had a wait list for. So
First one was full.
well, the first one. Okay, great. So word is definitely getting out, and that's really exciting. And I think we've heard good things about it, which is great. So it's clearly meeting a need in the community. And in fact, when I have talked to a couple of people during focus groups or one-on-one interviews, one of the things that came up was, oh, it'd be so nice if there could be like some adult art classes. And I said, well, let me tell you about something we're already doing. So that's really exciting that's going on. Let's see here.
Are you looking for more ideas? Because the only reason I know is I wanted to sign up for a credit report thing that one of the credit Landmark was putting on.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to call and register for it, and they were sold out, quote unquote, it's a free seminar, and had a waiting list.
So you said,
So-
what was the type of class?
About credit reports, like what do
Oh,
they
sure.
mean? How do you get stuff on them, off them?
Yeah.
And I believe it was put on by a representative, like TransUnion or somebody from
Sure,
actually
yeah.
one of the reporting agencies. So, you know, it was obviously well attended. So
Yeah,
that
that's
was,
good to know.
Yeah, so another topic perhaps.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I looked at my credit report, I was fairly traumatized. Not because the report was, my number was bad, but because I just didn't understand anything.
How to read it?
I was
Right.
young and,
Just,
you know,
yeah.
it was a terrifying concept. So. Let's see, for children's, you know, programming as usual and just starting to gear up about summer reading.
What
busy in
happens
action.
with Jane moving into her position?
Yeah.
Because Abby's down a body.
Yep, so we have delegated some responsibilities amongst the staff to carry over. I've approved a few extra hours for our part-time children's assistant to carry over. I was helping out in story time today. Some of the children thought I was hilarious and liked my robot dance. So that we're looking for someone right now, and we're
You are? Okay.
yep, we're excited to get someone in. You know, hopefully someone who has, you know, library experience and can really hit the ground running because they'll be hired right next to summer reading. So
Exactly.
we're looking for someone with a little bit of seasoning.
Are you looking at somebody that's long-term or just for the summer?
Long term. Yep, it's a full time
Well,
position.
because my daughter works at the library down at Carthage College,
Mhm.
and she's always looking for like that part-time
Oh,
summer
yeah.
job.
Yep.
And the library is like someplace that she loves to work, but
Yeah.
it's just not something that she's been able to find.
Yeah, that's hard. Some libraries do have summer part time. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Waukesha, 'cause, I mean, they run a pretty big
Yeah,
summer
that's
reading
true.
program too.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
tried the Waukesha Library?
That might be a good
Just
one
because
to try.
that program's just during the summer,
Yeah.
she just needs work during the summer. You know, like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
There
I know-
is.
Of course, they use a lot of volunteers.
I'll
there,
send you a
too.
link to where all the libraries in Waukesha and Jefferson County post their
Oh, yeah,
positions.
that'd be awesome.
So let me make a note of that. That might be.
Good. And she loves the library. She started off by counting books.
Oh.
Remember that back in the day, Romy?
Yeah.
Counting the numbers on the books.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific.
Making sure they're all in order.
I did that.
Yeah.
Volunteers. I know you're asking for one full-time, but are you entertaining the idea of two part-time people?
Not right now. No, I think that there's a value to a full-time position because, in terms of scheduling, and then also in terms of when you have someone who's working there 40 hours a week, there's just less catching up they have to do because there's more just steady communication. All right. So let's see. Anything else? We have our teen trivia contest, or that went on in February. They were very excited to get candy. I miss the days when I was motivated by something like candy. We had a great.
Motivated by candy.
Yeah, well, great. Good to know. All right, dates of note. The next library board meeting is April 16th. That is 4 days away from my birthday. Just making a note of that.
Oh, so we gotta bring trees? Didn't bring any.
This is also, so we're going to be discussing the capital and operating budget today, and then the vote will be next month in April. So today's nothing but discussion, and we'll vote next month. So that'll be an important meeting to achieve a quorum at. Strategic planning, just a few updates on that. We've received 323 testimonials. I've held 14 one-on-one interviews with patrons so far, and I have more to go. I've run 5 focus groups with 46 people so far. So that's really exciting. I have one tonight at 7. Just a reminder to us all that we have to be done by 7. Which is probably more you guys telling me, Brittany, we have to be done by 7, I recognize. But yeah, so we'll see. I'm not sure if anyone will attend tonight. I made some personal outreaches to people, and then we also had lots of personal handouts that we were handing out to people all week, posted on Facebook, things like that. I just wanted to make sure that I had an evening time to really capture that crowd.
Any common threads you're hearing? Without, I mean, you don't have to go
Yeah.
into a whole lot of detail, but just...
Top 3. People are very happy with the children's area.
Good.
Oh, good.
Yep. They really appreciate the helpfulness of the staff. Let's see, any big ideas, any big changes they're looking for? Texting for stuff is a great communication method for people now. So, and right now we do texts for overdue notices, but we haven't quite stepped into that arena yet for like events. Texting for events. We do emails right now, but it's actually a very easy thing, I believe, to achieve. So that will be something that I think we can do in
So
short
you
order.
have that many people's cell phone numbers to do that?
People would have to sign up for it, like they sign up for the email
Okay, so it
currently.
would be part of the city's website then?
Yep. So those are off the top of my head, but yeah, getting a lot of great ideas. Coming up is more interviews, more focus groups in the next couple of months, and then the deployment of the community survey. So that's complete now, and some feedback boards. So we'll have visuals where people can sort of vote on things, just to sort of get the mood.
The signage really looks, the drop down
I
from
know.
off the ceiling, it
Isn't
really
it
brings
cool?
all the colors together
Yeah.
and all that too. I think it made a, not that it needed a big difference, but
Yeah.
it made a big difference.
Yeah, it was worth it. That was a heck of a process. I never thought that ordering signs would be such an ordeal, but it was it was interesting. But anyway, yes, it turned out really well. I'm very happy. I like that you can see it from afar, so like as people are coming in, it's very clear, where you can go. And so in that respect, it was very helpful to actually have the space running for a bit, because we were able to sort of understand patron movements and figure out where the difficulty in navigating was. So yeah, so strategic planning is going really well. I went to Tudor Oaks last week. I'm at Stony Creek this week, and then I have an interview with Regency in short order. I met with Dr. Thompson last week for her perspective on the school district. So yeah, it's been a lot of good things. So.
Great.
Any particular negatives? Well, if you're thinking that hard, I guess not.
No, I mean, there's definitely, in terms of like, there are things that people would like for us to do. I'm just trying to think of any like ones that were repeated over and over again.
Did we ever talk about the library's hours of operation?
It's funny. I was wondering if that would come up, and I've only heard one person mention Sunday hours so far.
Yeah.
That's it. And
That's
like,
the one thing my kids always complain about. Like the
Yeah.
time that they want to come here, it's not.
It's
Yeah.
not, I've heard that
yeah.
with one person.
And I do have, I have a very specific question of like, what are barriers to you using the library? And yeah, so far I've only had one person mention that. Again, and I've talked to about 50 to 60 people, but that doesn't mean it won't come up, and it may show up in the survey. So,
I had one person say to me, sorry.
let me think.
That question in the survey, that'd be a good question to ask.
Well, so the problem with focus groups is if you ask a leading question like that, you know what you're going to get. It would kind of be like, should I offer cake in the library? it doesn't hurt for people to say yes, so they're going to say yes. So if I were to say, you know, should we offer Sunday hours? Most people are going to put yes because why not? So my purpose of asking some questions open-ended, what prevents you from using the library, is that if it's something that's actually a problem for them, they'll list it. But if it's not, then they won't. So I think I'll go back and look at the survey. I'm fairly certain I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's a specific question about what prevents you using the library, but I could certainly... I mean, I know there's like an open-ended question of, is there anything else you want to tell us? And so certainly if that was something that was, you know, really high on someone's priority, they would mention it there. But maybe I can add what prevents you from using the library question. Again, it's been helpful, and we haven't gotten a lot of responses to it. So again, it's...
I think sometimes it's hard to come up with just a random thing. So like if you had like a survey, are you happy with the library's hours? You would get a yes or no. And then they could, you know, then you could say, you know, comments, and then they could make comments.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, not everybody thinks of everything when they're doing the survey.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
very true.
to give them the to think about the hours, maybe they're not even thinking about
Mhm.
them when they're
Right,
filling
that's
it
why
out.
sometimes it's not like you're saying is the hours problem, it's just like, are you happy with them,
Yeah.
yes or no, and then
Mhm.
they're like, oh yeah, that's right, I want to come on Sundays, but it's closed, you know what I mean?
Sure,
Like it's just,
yeah.
it's thought-provoking, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, I had a cute one, talking with somebody, and they said, yeah, I walked in and I thought there was going to be a cafe.
Oh.
And that's because that's what the library system
Oh,
is.
I know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just, you know, what people think, you know, like they expected that there was going to be something like that there because they saw the word cafe.
We were talking at a director's meeting last week, and we used to have a lot more problems with that across the system because the library cards used to be brown with like a coffee cup on it. And and it used to be very confusing to people about like disassociating the physical coffee house idea from the library. So
Yeah, why did they do that?
I am not sure, but yeah, I can see the potential for issues there.
Meet you at the library for a sandwich and a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, my previous library had a coffee shop attached to it, and the amount of muffins that I ate makes me glad I don't have. Yes, it is. It's just not healthy.
And I think you do, but forgive me for not remembering. Do you ask a question like if there is anything that you would change about the library, what would it be? I think there's something similar to that if I remember
I think
right.
so, but I'll double check.
Because that's about as open-ended as you can get, I guess.
I'm fairly certain, but I'll just double
I
check.
think you do. It's something similar, but
Okay. Yep. So Jane has accepted the position of circulation supervisor, and I just sort of outlined her years of management experience, the variety of library experience she has, budget management, fundraising, things like that. So we're very happy for Jane, and I'm happy to get her experience and perspective.
did we have a lot of application from the outside? So it's nice to be able to hire within, but was there a lot of competition for the job?
Yep.
Yeah, there was.
It was a good day. And Jolene's been here 11 years.
Time flies.
Okay, anything about the stats?
You know, it's always amazing when you see how much more can, like the ebook, the checkouts and everything grow over the number from last year, and they just keep, you know, in this case, double digits so far. So ultimately, you think the percentage would drop because the number from the forest is so much higher. But
Any other questions, concerns for the director's report? All right, moving along, unfinished business. Doesn't look like there is any unfinished business this evening. So new business, looks like a couple items here. So let's start off with item number 1, a discussion on the 2020 capital budget.
The Strategic Planning Committee and I met, it was last week, right?
Yes.
Last Tuesday. So we had some discussion there. So just as a reminder, I checked in again with the city to see what we were like. The city's overall finances were like, just in terms of capital requests, and they still asked to defer projects out of 2020 just to keep the debt ceiling at an appropriate amount. So just as a reminder, that doesn't mean that there are zero capital projects going on in 2020. I think there's a road being built. Hillendale? Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Glendale?
Hillendale.
Hillendale, okay. See, sorry.
So, yeah, there are some projects going on, but
It's the Hillendale by my house. Yeah, that needs some fixing after this winter. Oh my gosh.
the amount of buckling on some of the roads
And
is...
there are potholes that I've never seen the size before, so
Yeah.
it's like.
Well, we could be in Iowa or Nebraska.
Yes, that's very
There you
true.
go. Yeah.
That's a
It
good
could have
point.
been,
That's
could have
very
been a lot
true.
worse, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
if your car hits one,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
not happy.
and I've got a little car, so it always seems like it's just gonna sit
Yeah.
right in the pothole,
Yeah.
so.
At least we don't have sinkholes. Every time I see a car get swallowed by a sinkhole, it terrifies me. I would not handle that well. Okay, so that's the reason for 2020 having no requests. Then if you look at 2021, I'll just go down it line by line. Carpeting and flooring, 80,000. That was just a rough estimate that I did. It's for the remainder of the library, so we did the back staff area in 2017. We're doing the meeting rooms in, wait a minute. We did the back staff area in 2018. In 2019, which is this year, we're going to be doing the meeting rooms, the public meeting rooms. That'll take place in October. And then we just have the whole rest of the library basically to deal with. And so this 80,000 is meant to cover all the rest of the library except for the circulation area. And I'll explain why that's cut out when we get to 2022. However, I am sad to report that 80,000 is not a good estimate anymore. So I did that estimate based on some square footage estimates and previous numbers that I had just to get a placeholder there. And then I thought, I wonder if a carpeting company would have time to get me a more solid number, even though these are just estimates moving forward. I'm like, might as well warn people as close as possible. And so it's actually 91,245. I was off by, and that's just one estimate,
One
certainly.
estimate, too.
So I would obviously get a couple of estimates for the job, but for the sake of this estimate for this, it's more like 91,245. That is presuming that we empty all the bookshelves and move the bookshelves
Right.
ourselves. I know, Elka. I know. If I asked the company, I said, just for giggles, what would happen if you rented? There are some shelf movers. Brookfield Public Library's doing it, where you can actually move these metal lifts underneath the entire shelf and lift it up with the books on it, so you don't have to take each book down by hand. Rent carts, store them all somewhere else, and it obviously happens very quickly.
Skid
Lift
loader or
up,
something.
put the carpet under, drop it down again. So it makes the process, and it's less impact on patron, less downtime,
Depends on how
stuff
heavy
like
it is,
that.
you don't have to crack any tile.
So don't you have to stretch the carpet though? What kind of carpet?
It's
are you-
carpet tile.
Oh, the tiles,
Yep.
okay.
The cost for that is another $25,000
For that service?
for that service. Yep.
Wow.
So, again, I am going to get multiple quotes, and so this number is not something set in stone. So that's what I know right now.
Sorry
So,
for a dumb question, but
Yeah.
if you're carpeting the meeting rooms, where are all the books?
I'm sorry, what?
I thought you said we were carpeting the meeting rooms.
In 2019. That money's already been approved for, so that's 2019. For
Right.
2020, I'm sorry, for 2021, that 80,000 was meant to cover the rest of the library.
Oh, I see where
And
I
so-
see what you're
yeah.
saying. Okay.
So I was originally, my rough
So
estimate
that
was
number's gonna be higher, probably in 2 years from now?
possibly, yeah. So my rough estimate was 80,000, but just for the purposes of getting this capital request, I would recommend us putting in at least at least what that estimate is just for now. And then if I get more estimates and it's lower than that, then we'll look like heroes. That's great. But I do know that there is value in having those movers and having the books not off the shelf. So I do want to entertain that possibility if at all
If
possible.
I remember correctly, like volunteers can't come in to help as a liability issue, is that,
The city attorney was concerned about that, yes.
because I mean, I'd be happy to come in and
Yeah.
Yeah,
do what I could. I mean, that's,
for
I
that
appreciate
amount of
that.
money, yeah.
of course, then we could mess them up more than help them, I suppose, too, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
Good time to dust the shelves.
true.
I could dust them.
So I do, because Brookfield Public Library is using this exact technology this year, I told them, let me know. I want to come by and take a look at what they're doing, and obviously I'll get more quotes. So this is not at all set in stone, but this is an example of what it would cost based on this company. This is the company that we used for this area, and they did have the lowest of the 3 quotes last time. That doesn't mean that that's not necessarily true, and I can, of course, always look into maybe an outside company might move the books for slightly cheaper or might be able to rent the lifts and do it slightly cheaper. So there's a couple of options I can look into, but this is to have the one vendor do it.
So do you just go to a carpet company, or are there special dealers that deal in things like this?
We went to a carpet company.
Like a regular carpet?
Yeah, a commercial carpet company, not like Home Depot or something. And this was the company, I believe, that the City Hall used for their renovation as well, if I recall correctly. I think New Berlin used them recently for them, and they certainly did right by us. I was happy with the product, and again, they were the lowest cost when we did it in 2018. So I thought at least they'd be a valid estimate. But we also didn't need them to move books last time because we were just doing the staff area. They just shoved some desks to the side. So this is going to be a more expensive carpeting project due to the size and due to the types of furniture that we have. It's going to be
When
more.
was the last time the carpeting was?
It's 2000. It's original to the building. So it's 19 years old, and it'll be 22 years old by the time we want to replace it. So
It'd be interesting if you could have like tagged onto another place's carpet. Like we just did St. Leonard's, and they did all the keys and everything. It would have been interesting if you can combine jobs and maybe get a lower
discount.
cost.
Mhm.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any other places that are putting in carpeting. Or no. You're not? No, yours is all new.
No.
You got all new
No,
stuff.
I'm moving another book. I get nervous just when you say it. My heel spurs are just recovering.
this is not a project I'm looking forward to.
How long will that take them to do?
That I'm not sure
Do you have
about.
that service?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't ask that question.
That'll be good.
Longer than I want it to, I'm sure.
I mean, because it should take a lot less time. I mean, that's why you're paying that amount, right?
Well, think about this. This whole back area, the staff area from here all the way to the end, that took 4 days to do. And all they had to do was move about 5 or 6 pieces of furniture. So,
It's take weeks.
well, I hope not. So, a couple of things to think about, though. Usually, for a bigger project like this, they'll have a bigger crew. So, it would probably move faster for that. Maybe not faster than this. I could see it taking at least a week. But the other thing is, what was I going to say? Nope, that was it. I lost the other thing. So I would imagine they'd have a bigger crew to do a bigger project. I know that libraries like Brookfield Public, when they're doing big spaces like this, they're just doing it a chunk at a time. It's not like they shut down the entire library, especially if we don't have to take the entire collection offline. So if we don't have to store books or if we don't have to put them on carts and shove them in various places, if all they're doing is lifting up segments at different areas, then all we do is close off an area of the library. So today, adult fiction is not accessible, but you can still use the great room, you can still use the teen area, you can still use, AV. And then, oh, okay, so now graphic novels and book club kits, that area is off limits, but adult fiction is back online. So they don't, in some cases, especially if you're able to section off certain areas, you don't have to shut down the entire library. So
Back a few years ago, Pete was still here. I think we had a number of like 176,000 for carpeting. I don't remember. But, so that 80 and the 13, is that the remainder of the
Correct.
176? So
Yep.
the council is on notice. I mean, that they've been looking at this number for a long time.
Yep.
This isn't anything new except for the increase.
correct.
So
Correct,
that
and-
based the increase on the 80 and who knows on the 13,125. So, but this is part of that initial request that
It's-
they have been looking at.
Yep,
over
they've
the
seen
years.
these numbers, and they've never seen 80. So 80 was just my very optimistic estimate based on me thinking I could do carpet calculations.
But the 176 was based on an estimate of the aggregate, though.
Probably, yes.
Yes.
So if you think about, I believe the placeholder that Pete had for the remaining area was like 90,000. So I thought it was 80 based on rough calculations. I was very wrong.
90 for the 2 years together.
90, no, I think it was 90 for the great room. I think it was 90 for the great room.
So you're not too far off.
So it
then.
ended up
I
being
mean, you could bump it up.
91,245, but then that estimate I don't think included any movers.
You're right. I don't.
So.
This is the first time I'm hearing
Yeah.
about that option, so
Right.
I doubt it.
Well, how much have you already spent on carpeting?
Is it around 30 for the kids area?
Around 30 for the kids area, and this was about 12 to 14, I feel like.
Let's say 15, so 45 has been spent of the 175?
That's the assumption I think we could make at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to guarantee anything.
Right,
I'd rather
because you
look
don't
at the
have number-
historic knowledge,
100%
but
on the numbers, so,
yeah. So the
So we're
biggest
still
project
under
is,
the-
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still under the
Okay.
176, if my 176 is right too, I
Yeah.
could be wrong. but I
yeah,
know
the
I'm not
biggest
that.
part of this is 2021 for sure. It's the largest area, it's a lot of carpet. So that's carpeting and flooring for 2021. Public furniture is just the continued updating of the furniture that we have, the wooden furniture for just other furniture, newer furniture, not furniture that's 18 years old. And it's going to be well timed because the accessibility scan that we did show that not all that furniture was accessible, and so it's a good time to think. This was built in anyway. The accessibility scan just helps support that. We need to continue to develop that. Young adult area redesign to make it a more effective study space for teens. Let's see. Service desk redesign, that would be for the reference desk. If we're doing the recarpeting of the great room, now is a good time to update the reference desk as well. There are definitely things we can do to that desk to make it better. And that's 2021. Any questions on 2021 before I move on to 2022? Okay, so 2022, I have great news. My $13,000 estimate for carpeting was wrong. The same company that quoted that other stuff said the back circulation area would only cost $6,568. So I was wrong by like 50%. So what we've learned is, if you let me estimate square footage and let me use carpet tile estimates, we will come up with an incorrect number. So
Might even out.
right, yeah.
You gotta get the higher one in the year before and make sure
Yeah.
you get that one right.
Yes. Well, yeah. Which is again, these were best estimates I could get, but I was
Just kidding.
glad I could get the real numbers for you all here. So that is tied into. Yeah. So that's the last area of carpeting, and then we'll be done. Again, just continuing to go through the public furniture over those 2 years. RFID. So this is again the system that would allow us to update how we circulate things, check them in and out. It uses radio frequency as opposed to metal strips. It has some benefits. The drawback is the price tag, certainly, and the amount of time it would take to touch every book in the library and update it. So I'm not even going to speak to whether I think it should happen or not, because that's why it's in 2022. If you recall from the 2019 action plan, and one of my goals this year is to thoroughly investigate it and see if it is something that is worth that price tag, because we have to be able to justify it for that price
Do you
tag.
have staff training in here too? Or is that?
That number is just a ballpark. I won't even begin to
Okay.
commit to it. My goal this year is to get better pricing,
Got
to
it.
understand the full project, and to understand if it's worth it or not. So it's in there just because I want it as sort of a reminder of something that may come up, but
Do you know offhand how many libraries in this area have it? Is it becoming that you need to have it
Yeah.
because of the system, or?
there are about, I believe, 6 or 7 libraries that have done it, notably Fort Atkinson, New Berlin, Waukesha, Public. I can't remember some of the others.
That's okay. Just,
So-
I mean, there's enough.
Yeah, there's enough
and
that
there will
have
be
done
even
it.
more probably by.
Yeah, there's enough that have done it. There are enough that haven't done it, and it's really based on the price tag. I mean, it really is. It has value, but it has a price tag. So.
Is that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How often do you do like an inventory? I mean, do you have an idea if you're missing?
So we run reports, but in terms of all out and out inventory,
We don't have the means to do it short of,
Yeah.
RFID would certainly be great for that, because you just take the wand and walk along the shelves, and it goes, "Ooh, this book is missing. Says it should be here, but it's not." So there definitely is value. And speaking as someone who did a full inventory of a university library, we didn't have RFID, and I had to send a legion of student workers into the stacks with a laptop, and they literally had to, count every book. It was labor
Well, and
intensive.
the economy of scale time-wise, I mean, that could add up to some big numbers too.
Yep.
That's the other
Yeah.
way of looking at that as well. So.
I will provide a very effective report of the cost savings and the cost drawbacks, the technology value, the technology issues. It's going to be a thorough investigation, that's for sure.
On this, and maybe you need to research it, is this a one-time only shot, or are there cost
Ongoing
maintenance?
expenses? I
Whatever,
can't even
wouldn't
speak
know
to
what
that.
you-
Probably software data that you have to.
I'm
I would
sure-
think so. I mean, that's going to be a continuing line item. I
I'm
would
sure
assume.
there is. Now, we also have ongoing expenses currently with Biblioteca, which is our self-check station, and then that software. But am I certain that it'll probably cost more with RFID?
Yeah.
So that will be an
I think you
operational
probably
expense. So there will be
And
capital.
are there competitors in the RFID market for libraries, or is it one monopoly, or?
Couldn't even tell
that,
you.
don't.
Yeah, so I promise you, I'm well aware of my 2% knowledge on this topic, and I plan to make it 100%. So
And part of the reason that I'm asking is if it was a one-time shot, if there's something in there that might be ripe for a little bit of fundraising or something too, because if something is an in and out versus, as I was asking about the
Right.
ongoing expenses, that's a little bit harder.
Yep.
But if there's something that, and I don't see anything else really jumping out as a potential fundraising
Sure.
opportunity, but for the RFID, but that's my 2 cents, whatever they're worth.
yeah, they're worth 2 cents, maybe more,
Maybe 90,000?
maybe 90,000. Yeah. And then the circulation desk redesign, which is in a sore need of redesigning, that would only make sense. It doesn't make sense to do it before the RFID decision, because they would go hand in hand. Because if we were to get RFID, there would be a lot of changes that would need to be done to the desk to outfit to accept that new technology. So that's why it is also in 2022. And that's why that remaining carpeting chunk is also in that year, because it doesn't make sense to do the carpeting at circulation until the desk is done and until potentially RFID is done. So those 3 projects are kind of attached.
So that's what the carpeting was for, the 6,000 was circulation?
Correct. Yep.
So I was gonna say, if it has to do with moving books and stuff, we should just get it all done together.
Oh, yeah, nope. You know, and that's why that area is so cheap. It's really just, there's nothing, no furniture to move. It's just that back rectangle area and back office. So, yeah, so that's 2021 and 2022. And yeah, these projects have been on the books for years. They were part of the current strategic plan, or the idea that these projects should be done. In 2023, I listed the public restroom renovation. That was something that we put on last year, just to spruce that up. And because the bathrooms are original, you know, they've never had an update, so that's a 19-year-old bathroom.
Can I ask you one thing, Annette? When you had the, I don't know, feasibility or accessibility?
Accessibility,
people?
yep.
Accessibility people.
Yep.
Many moons ago, when I lived in another community, we had a major building redesign because, and a big part of it was ADA issues.
Yep.
And one of the things that came up, realizing, again, this is a long time ago and laws change, is that once you are on notice that you have accessibility issues, you then must fix them. So to defer for 4 years
Right.
might not be acceptable under the law. So I don't know if you've talked to the city attorney about that or not.
Yeah. So one of my goals this year is to assess the accessibility study, and so it's on my list of things to do. And my goal is to go through it and start knocking things off the list, prioritize, talk with maintenance, see where our high priority issues are. So I still need to go through that.
And my understanding is once you start, you know, you can't just piecemeal it. You have to kind of do one or the other. So for when you do talk to them for whatever.
Yeah,
that's
I'll
worth.
I'll verify that with the city attorney. You know, and of course there are adjustments we can do. I have to look at specifically what happened with the bathroom. But so let's say it's a paper towel dispenser that is too high. That's something that we can fix without renovating the bathroom, and to get us along until we can do the full
That's the
renovation.
distinction, I think. Once you start renovating, it's kind of an all or nothing.
Yes.
That's my
Yep.
understanding. So
Yep.
thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, 2024, I put storage shed. Storage is just an issue that we have. We don't have a lot of it at all. And it would be really nice if we could get a shed just built out there where we can put some of our more spare shelving and things that don't need to be in a heated storage area, so that we can free it up for things that we do need to keep more protected. So,
Do you think any of our area remodelers might consider?
Oh, I was even thinking of Eagle Scout.
That's what I was.
Yeah, because the high school,
just
they do
got
projects
introduced
too.
On Tuesday with an Eagle Scout who was doing a civil citizenship award or something like that. And the question he asked me in the interview was, do you know of any projects that are potentially out there? Because he's got to get this done before he's 18. Granted, he's, I think I asked him he's 15, but so he's got a little time. But they're always looking for suggestions of things to do.
Excellent, because my neighbor across the street, they've since tore it down because it got old, but the high school came to shop class,
Oh, yeah.
and they built,
They're doing sheds too.
and it was pretty good size, so before we started, and I realize it's, this amount is way down the road, but maybe you can get it sooner than later if you look at some other
Because I had
alternatives.
just mentioned, and this was just off the top of my head because I didn't know that question was coming. But I thought for the back area, because I had been to, I think it was Hill's Corners outdoor library thing for a book reading or whatever, and they had like a tarp thing that went all over the thing, and she said, "Oh yeah, so and so from our Boy Scouts put that in." So I was like, that sounds like a really cool thing that, so the kids aren't in the sun beating down, like as you're trying to read or whatever. So
Yeah. Eagle Scouts, that's an interesting idea. I think what I would need...
and you can even, Girl Scouts do gold awards.
Yes, they do. We actually have a gold award for the children's area. That's why the swamp exhibit with the fish and the frog,
that's right.
she made that. I'm sorry. So I'm going to write that down. And of course, the only thing that I would need before we could approve a project like that is that it would have to be something that would be structurally sound, something that's durable, will last, and frankly that would meet that our maintenance guy would sign off on,
No, I
because
can
it would
think about
have
that.
to it would have to
I
meet
think
our
they have
needs.
to
But
meet with the city planners and
Right.
everything.
Sure,
and
yeah,
there's-
yeah.
Sure.
But I'm
High
going to make a
school,
note
too.
of that.
In high
So
school.
I think it would be smart to leave the money on there, but certainly that's a factor that I'm going to consider because I like that idea. Okay, I'm just making 2 notes quick, so bear with me just 1 second.
Going off that idea, I know it's not on the plan right now, but like I talked about an outdoor bench in the front. That'd be a smaller little project that the Eagle Scout could be too.
That's true.
Eagle Scout did the ones at St. Leonard's and they're beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and for a Girl Scout one, that'd almost only just be a bronze or a silver. Maybe that's for some good.
And they
Because
do
they have to do 3 different awards.
And they do the fundraising, I mean, he got people to sponsor a bench and,
Right.
you know, pay for the bench and then a little plaque with their name on it, it was really cool.
Okay, I made a note of both of those things.
Did you add the high school shop class? Just as possibilities.
I'll give you the guy's name because they built the like tiny houses, so they would do a shed.
They
too.
would do
Okay.
Yeah. And at the gala the other night, the shop from Muskego High School made some beautiful Adirondack chairs.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, those were cool.
That were very nice too.
Those are never very good for my low back pain, though. I don't know if anyone else has
They're
low
nice
back
to
pain.
look at,
They're,
but not always comfortable.
they're a little too deep for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just short, but
The back.
and so of course one of the things that we want to think about is we are in the middle of a strategic planning process, and so we don't know what's going to come up with the strategic plan that may add or subtract from some of these plans moving forward. So, but all we can do is plan based on what we know right now because the report won't be done until the fall. So. It will be interesting to see what this plan looks like next year. And that's the capital plan.
Any final questions or concerns on the capital plan? All right, thank you, everyone. Moving into item number 2, let's get into the operating budget.
All right. Oops. Sorry for the teeny tiny print here.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to read on
I know.
when you get the packet online.
Yeah, sorry. All right. So we're talking about the 2020 operating budget recommendations. If you look at, so we're looking at the rightmost column under 2020, not the comment section. So the first section, the first shaded section, the darkest one at the top, these are all numbers that encompass salary and wages. So you can see on the left, it covers pension, health insurance, life insurance, salary and wages, health insurance allowance, things like that. These numbers are the 2019 numbers. And the reason for that is if you look at the comment on the right, it's based on the 2019 budget because HR does all those calculations to figure out this is your staff, so this is how much you need for the year. And they won't do that until July. So when we look at these numbers and when you vote on them next month, you will be voting on it, understanding that the HR will provide the 2020 numbers, which will be exactly what we need. No more, no less. It's just there's no creativity that needs to be done with those numbers. It's just you're approving it knowing that those numbers will reflect what HR tells us. So that's that top section. The slightly lighter section below that covers our materials budget. So print materials, audio, visual, electronic, and library replacement. And so I kept that flat. I thought it was reasonable numbers overall for what we need based on our prior spending years, except I did increase electronic materials by 1% just due to inflation on some of the databases.
I'm just curious because wouldn't you think if your electronics are going up, then your print material should go down? Shouldn't you have some sort of like offset of the two?
So
Because aren't they replacing one another?
Not necessarily, no. And in fact, our print checkouts increased last year. So it's not necessarily a direct correlation that if someone is reading more electronic materials, that they're reading less print. We can't necessarily make that argument. And
Aren't
print,
they reading the same? I guess how much difference is there offered between your print versus your electronic? That's what you have to sort of put out there. Because what I'm saying is like if they're not using the print material and they're doing it electronically, then that shouldn't be having to be.
but we had an increase in print material last year, usage, checkouts, compared to the year before. So it's not going down, the print. So I think it's reasonable to keep it the same.
Same trend is in the school district too.
Really?
We've got electronic, but there's a lot of people, they just want print. So same trend we did.
And could you kind of define electronic materials, so it would be like books on CD, books on tape, all of those things are all considered electronic, and then print is literally paper?
That's AV. Audiobooks are AV.
Yeah, audiobooks and DVDs, things like
that's
that.
okay.
That's AV.
All right.
Yep.
So then, what would electronic materials be?
Electronic materials covers all of our databases that we buy
Okay.
into that pool with, and our portion of the ebook collections.
Okay.
So Overdrive and Libby.
So is it because you're not offering enough electronic books? This doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like trying to figure out why it should be offsetting one another. If they're not doing this and they're doing this, or
If
if
you
they're
look
not
at
doing this.
Pew studies, though, it doesn't. People are reading more. They're just reading in different
But then your
different
electronic
formats.
should be going down.
No, people are reading
More people
overall
are reading.
more.
You think that's,
So the universe is growing.
I mean, that's why we track. I mean, to your point, that's why we track the statistics we track. We track our ebook usage. We track the checkouts to make sure that the trends that we're seeing are
they
supporting.
the same documents, or are they checking out different things? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
So like the Consumer Reports database, for an example, they're not checking out the magazine. Is that kind of the thing that you're
Right.
asking?
Well, the magazine
go-
can't be checked out. It's a reference material.
Well,
Right.
just for
So
point of
that can't
illustration, I
start.
guess, that's what we're
Right.
trying, is that if they're using the electronic version, then the print version should go down.
I mean, and I don't
Regardless
think.
of whether it be checked out or not, I guess.
Right,
Dri-
like the Junie B. Jones books.
Sure.
Those are electronic too, because I know I've done both.
Mhm.
If they're not doing this, then they're doing this. Unless there's more people doing, but I'm surprised because our numbers are down with students, our numbers are down with. So,
But when you say our numbers, you're
Census.
meaning the census for
for
Muskego?
school district, is lower, yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
sort of
By how
surprised.
much?
It's more than you think.
Because the overall city has increased in population.
Correct.
But your number is in the district. Does it count the public or private schools also?
I think so. Yeah, I think because it's the state, but yeah, no, it
I
does.
mean, at the end of the day, I can't base it off of a census of a school district. I just have to do
No, I know that.
what am I seeing the libraries doing, and so all of our numbers show that our print circulation is up, our ebooks are really, really healthy and doing well, and
Do you correlate that data by age at all? So, and let me give you the second part of my question.
Yeah.
Okay. And gross generalizations here.
Mhm.
Younger people tend to use more electronics. Older people who are using print materials might not know we have the electronic version available. Trying to give you a number of different potential scenarios, not saying they're right. But do you do this by age too, so you kind of know what an age group's usage pattern, like somebody with gray hair like me tends to
Yeah.
like the print, okay, but a younger person might like the electronic.
I would say that I haven't run that report recently, but I would say that the survey that we're going to send out that says what types of formats are you aware of and interested in is going to have them also answer demographic questions like ages, and so that will
And
be
then you'll
interesting.
correlate that, okay.
The stats don't, in the school district, don't follow that at all, because, yeah, they want the print, and we have a segment who wants the audio.
Meaning the kids want the
yes.
print, or the kids want the audio, so
Right,
age
and
is not a
teacher-
particular
no,
correlation?
I've got teachers who only want electronic,
Uh-huh.
I've got
Mine are not.
others who just want
Everything's
print.
electronic. Everything is electronic.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to
My
answer,
kids-
that's why I'm asking you guys.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well, my grandson, he wants reading, he wants a book,
Yeah.
paper,
Wants to hold
magazines.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know, I suppose it
Mhm.
depends on how kids are raised, too.
We
My
really-
5-year-old grandson wants book
We really
right now.
thought
Yeah,
the trend
yeah,
was
my
really
grandson's
skyrocket,
8.
but we're not finding it at all, it's.
And if you're brought
It's
up on
impressive.
print,
Yeah.
you're gonna like print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure you got it handled.
Yeah, Rachel in college, everything is electronic. She doesn't have any textbooks.
Yeah, some universities are going to
Mm-hmm.
e-textbooks as a way of cutting down costs for resources, but
Well,
at
because
least,
you don't use
Yeah,
the
we're
textbooks
50-50 at our.
Yeah.
50,
Yeah.
50.
yeah, but at least for now, I think our data shows that we need to continue, you know. Underneath the materials section, the even lighter section covers our building. And I spoke with our maintenance and asked, is there any nightmare projects I need to know about, gremlins in the walls, any reason why we would need to increase that? And he said, no, we can hold steady, so that's good. And then those other housekeeping services and housekeeping supplies, that's just for our janitorial services. And I did make a note on the right there that right now that number is just based on what we've done in years past to clean the building, and the city picked a new cleaning contract this year, Gibb, and so they're on a 1-year contract to see how they perform. And so, of course, at the end of the year, if they end up saying like, we thought that it would take this much money to clean the library, but it turns out it's less, or it turns out it's more, there may be a slight adjustment to that number. But, yeah, so I just made that little note there. But yeah, those numbers, I don't think we need increases on those
And
at all.
are you happy with their cleaning?
I was gonna say that I was just in the bathroom and
Not good.
all the toilet rolls are
Yeah.
empty.
Yeah.
I know.
Not good in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
I know.
Yeah.
My smile is one of diplomacy. There's a reason why I have a meeting this week with the owner. And why I have lots of photos in my phone and
And
emails.
can each department chair, I don't know what you're called in the city, how
Department
that
head,
works,
yeah.
department head, do they meet individually with the owner too? I mean, because to me, the city is the one who's gonna make the decision. You would want the city.
I've let the city know
Yeah,
as well.
Okay, I would,
Many people know of my displeasure.
and our, well, we'll
Yeah.
leave that go.
So yeah, no, I agree with you. There are things that they started in January, and by now I would have expected that a routine would have been established. So having a conversation with my stern face this week, which I don't show people often. So
Don't have the baby.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I have so many photos. And I have a special folder just designed for every time I send an email. So, yep, I agree with you. I am, we're on it. Yep, so that's the overall building in general. And then that bottom section, it just covers mileage, conferences and training, library equipment. So, when we're buying book carts, shelving, things like that. Computer charges, so all of our computer and software and things like that. You'll notice that there's a decrease. We're getting some savings by a different firewall, one that will still protect us, but that was something that our IT director recommended, and so that's great that there's a savings there. Processing supplies to get all of our items on the shelf. I have put back in, if you recall, the confusion of grant expenses and friends expenses. So those line items are back as to not mess up our budget lines. I did make a small increase to programming just because there's always cooler things we can do if we just had a little bit more money.
Is the smart board here?
Yes.
I don't remember, I didn't
Yeah.
look for it.
Are the Friends doing any fundraisers this year?
Um,
I've not heard of it.
that is a topic that we've been discussing the last couple meetings. So there are going to be some upcoming fundraisers, but we're just still working on some of the details. So there's a couple that we know for sure that we want to work on, but I don't have enough details yet to make it worthy, and I don't want to speak for them quite yet. But I will definitely update you on that.
Well, were they thinking about doing something in the spring for Easter with the escape rooms or something?
At some
Did you do
point, the
that Christmas
topic
time?
came up of doing a fundraiser escape room. Right now, we're doing a spring break escape room, which is just for free for it was for families again, right?
Yes.
Not just for teens.
When is
So
that running till?
It's all of spring break.
yeah, it's on the April calendar. So if you want to grab the April calendar, you'll see that. Yeah, so I'll update you on what the Friends are doing. We're just not quite at a place yet, I think, where they're ready to speak on some firm projects. But it's been really fun going through the brainstorming process with them. There's been some really interesting and fun new ideas that we've come up with as a result, and be some fun new activities, I think, for the community. So, everything else, that's all the expenditures. So the expenses we're anticipating, and as you can see, it's pretty much flat compared to the previous year. The minor inflation and the program enhancements and the firewall. I mean, they're keeping us at pretty much what we asked for last year.
But you don't have the HR numbers.
But I don't have the HR numbers. Thank you, Gail. Yes, that's true. So yeah, it may end up. Right now, we're at about 1,200 under where we were last year, but we may be at or a little bit over, depending upon what we see with those numbers.
So for the programming number for 2018,
Mhm.
when it went from 6,000 to 20,000, why was that big jump?
That was because of that.
Housekeeping issue.
No, not the house.
No?
Not the housekeeping. It's the because the
Where?
So the last line.
2018.
versus
This one right here.
6 to 20. So remember.
programming, so it was budgeted for
Oh, got it.
6,000.
Okay.
Remember
Yes.
how finance had made the recommendation that we try to correlate programming expenses, even if they were Friends and not library expenses, under the programming line item? And so it ended up looking like we were going way over budget, when in reality the Friends paid for all of that overage. And the reason why I wanted to put placeholder money back in for the Friends is because if you look at that number, it makes it seem like we blew the budget, when in fact we were well within the budget. And finance knew that number would look awful, but they were like, in finance it's good to, if it was a program number, regardless of if the Friends reimburse you or not, it makes sense to go in programming, which I understand to an extent, but at the same time it just looks hideous on paper.
Because the budget and the actual don't equal the.
Yeah, I know.
The 2018 actual.
Yep, I know.
Right,
It's
right, yeah.
it's a disaster. So we're not doing that
Well, it
next
was
year.
surprising
Never mind.
In 2016, that for office supplies, it was at 20 grand, and then the next year it's down at 7
We
grand.
split it between office supplies and
Process
process
Oh,
supplies.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what the heck happened there?
We bought so many less pens. We had some pen thief at the staff in
Paper clips I
2016.
can donate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it-
Yeah, and then below that is the revenue section, and so that's just estimated, what we estimate for revenue that we take in for grants, or money that we get for the system, or lost and damaged, fines, things like that. I see no reason to change those estimates. I mean, yeah, sometimes we get way more, but it's good to have a steady average, and just doesn't hurt us if we get more revenue, that's for sure. So,
Is that what an average library gets for grants? Is that? I think it would be higher, but.
it really just depends on what's out there and what people apply for and what we get or not get. What that number is just what we know we'll get every year guaranteed. So the system always gives us a guaranteed grant amount. So what you may,
system, like the city or the state?
the library system, so for Waukesha and Jefferson County,
So it's coming from the state.
possibly. So it's
So does that change
the state.
with the governor?
The state does.
Oh, well,
The state
he's the education
funds.
governor, so maybe they'll.
The state funds library systems to a certain extent, and then what they do with the money, they can make different choices. So, I mean, I guess technically you could argue that because they also have a close relationship with the county, but I think, yeah, it's probably technically state funds because they're LSTA funds sometimes. But yeah, so we get the grant from the system. The state gives the system money. But if you look at, for instance, 2018, you'll notice that we ended up getting $8,765 in grants. So we just put that number because we don't know what grants we're going to apply for in the year, and I don't want to just say, $10,000 in revenue and then fall short of that, because that would not be the wrong way to guess.
Should we be aiming for a higher number?
Well,
And we do.
So and I say this with all due respect, but when you put that, there's no incentive
Yes.
to get more, okay? And I don't mean that in an insulting way or anything at all, because look what you got here. You got 8765 in 2018.
Mhm.
And I understand your logic at the same time, but if you have that lower number, there's really no incentive to go out and get more. And I say that with all due respect.
Well, I feel incentivized to get more. I mean, anytime that we can show the city that we are able to do more projects and do more things. I mean, the incentive is not that, this is all I have to do. The incentive is
Yeah,
that,
but if it's in your budget for $5,000, you're gonna really work to get $5,000, because you're gonna try to make your budget work.
it's true.
Yeah.
But
So I don't know.
But hopefully the librarians that work here are doing their best to get grants.
Yeah.
Because they,
I hope we've
yeah,
proven that we
right.
are highly motivated to do that. So,
That big jump was a partnership Abby had with the school district.
Mhm.
So we have all kinds of coding stuff and things that we check out only to the teachers to use with the kids. And that one was a state grant that we both had to agree to. And I think that was the first time they offered that.
yeah,
So it was
the
for
state,
coding.
yeah, the DPI, yeah.
So I think they offered different things all the time. But
Yeah, we strongly encourage grant seeking, and that's something we'll continue.
So there's no one that just works on grants, each department.
Yeah,
sort
each
of
person's
finds
responsible
out
for
what's-
looking for grants in their area and then applying to the ones that work. Yeah. Any other questions about the budget?
I've got one on the HR side.
Mhm.
I believe there were some salary increases based on salary studies and
Correct.
that kind of thing.
Yep.
Is that referenced at all in the 2018 numbers, so we won't see a sizable jump in 2019, or might we see
Well,
a
if you
decent jump?
if you look at 2018, it does not have the salary study numbers. But if you look at 2019, the year that we're in, you'll see where the
The
increase
jump there,
was.
so
Yep.
so
So
even
from-
before you get the numbers, you budgeted for the increase. Is that what's happening there?
So the increase went into effect January 1st, 2019. So if you look in 2018, it was
Oh, it didn't
613.
start in 18. I
Yep.
just made an assumption it started in 18.
Yep,
Never mind
nope,
then.
yep, so that adjustment is there. So really, it would just be whatever cost of living increase, if the city deems appropriate for 2020 or wants to estimate for
Okay.
that.
I'm sorry, I just assumed it started in 18.
No, that's a good question. That would not be a good thing to forget or
Because then
estimate
you'd
for.
see a more sizable bump.
Exactly.
Yes, that's
Yep.
it. Okay.
Can you say what the library taxable revenue is?
Oh yeah, let me think for a second. Library taxable revenue is the copier, faxing, printing, right? Printing, or is it just copy? It.
I don't know.
think,
Probably copying and faxing.
yeah.
So give me an example. So you want to go fax a sheet of paper or something, it costs how much to fax?
$1.
$1,
Yep.
and then you charge out $5. And you're taking that taxes and putting it here?
Nope.
No, that is included in that dollar
So-
we charge.
Yeah, we charge the $1, straight $1.
It's really not taxable, it's just a fee.
And admittedly, maybe I should have a better explanation for this. That's just a category that exists, and I presume that it gets taxed, that the city taxes it on the back half.
That's my understanding.
I can get a better
Yeah,
explanation.
I never thought about a
I
question
can
like
get a
that.
better-
How do they do that from a tax perspective?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Because it's income.
who says that has to be taxed?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a
All the
good
things we
question.
provide,
Yeah.
But it is
that's
technically, it's income. Income's income, and income is
Yeah.
taxable, so, but I think perhaps our status might also
Yeah.
change that. I know we're not nonprofit, but we're government entities, so that might be
You know, and
another
that
issue as well.
that may be an odd. I'll get an explanation on that. It may be a weird phrasing because, you know, as far as I know, that number it just sits there. It sits
Yeah.
there. It's revenue. We charge someone fax $1. They give us $1. We put it in that account. It counts to offset our expenditures. So I really don't have a good explanation of why the word taxable's in there, but I'll get it because it's a curiosity that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, because I don't even, government entities, do they even file tax returns? I don't really know anything about the entity, if they have to file returns or not. Yeah, so maybe it's a non-issue, depending on
Right.
what
It's
what
not
this
labeled
is.
right.
It's a large
Probably-
amount of money.
Probably
I think
not.
it's labeled right.
Yeah.
I think it's more like a fee
Yeah, I'll
or
ask.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you can argue fees of tax too.
Yeah.
I will get us an answer because I don't know either.
Because all the stuff that used to be on the tax bill, you know, that we pay for separately now,
Right.
sewer, refuse,
Right.
recycling,
Mhm.
all of that.
Those were
Yeah,
fees.
those were taxes at one point. Now they're not. Now they're fees. So, anyway.
Yeah, it's a great question. We will all learn something new.
I'm curious based on what we're considered if they even file a return. Maybe they don't have to. Okay.
I just look at this and I'm like.
Are we doing on time?
We should be very
Good.
You got
glad
some time for
to
break?
let the city offset, I mean, city's putting out a big chunk of change for the library to stay in
Yep.
existence.
Yep. And then, not to prop us all up collectively because we're all part of this, and then the city gets an amazing, or the community gets an amazing service. I mean, if you look at our numbers, it's, I think we're,
We should grow more often, that's what I said, you know, in the city stuff that they, of course, I don't even know, are they sending out that paper report that used to be 4-color? And, because I haven't seen one of those in quite a while.
Next one.
Yeah, it comes out. 'cause
Oh, the
our
city
stuff is
newsletter?
quarterly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
it's quarterly,
newsletter.
right?
I thought I just saw.
So it should be-
That
I
it
thought I
was,
just
no, it was
got
online or
Yeah.
something. I saw
yeah, I
something too,
just
that's
got
why
an
I'm
email.
asking.
Yeah.
That they're, I don't know if they're not doing it, but I
Yeah.
happened to see the newsletter online.
Yep.
but, I mean, you should all be very proud to help represent the community and help make sure that the library services are delivered because when you look at our annual report and you look at our numbers, they're not dropping, they're increasing. Our programming numbers. I had a woman grab me by the elbow today and just say, I come from Glendale and I just want to say that we come here because your children's collection is far superior for my struggling reader and we come to the programs and she's like, I just want to say thank you.
Glendale,
So-
that's a ways.
Yeah, but that's that's the group that you're helping support and guide, and that's exciting. So to be part of that and to be in a community that really values education and learning and reading and yeah, that's exciting. That's we're worth some time. So and money.
Absolutely. All right, anything else? Questions, concerns on the operating budget?
So so this just basically sits, obviously, until July, when you get the HR numbers, and
We'll vote on it in April.
you,
So
we
this
will
was the
vote on
discussion.
this
Yep,
without those
so-
numbers, okay?
Yep.
Well, yeah, we'll have to.
Yes, okay.
And so then you'll vote saying, understanding that HR will provide the accurate numbers necessary to run the library. And then
How is it that they don't have the numbers?
You know, I
what
don't-
everybody's
Maybe
budget is.
maybe they negotiate health insurance at a certain time.
Yeah.
I'm,
I also know
What do I
that
know?
in January, February, they're closing out 2018 budgets, so they usually do it right before they start talking to council for budget requests. So, yeah. But what was I going to say? So yeah, we'll vote on it in April, and then when it comes time to submit it, which will be in May, and or June, Elka will just give these numbers, the numbers that you voted on, to the city, and then I will come back from maternity leave just in time to talk to council about it, because it goes before council end of August, September. So we're getting a lot of work done now, so the summer will be slightly less number intensive, so good for us.
so forgive me, I'm having a brain drain here,
Yeah.
but is that the way we did it last year, timing wise? Or are we doing this because of your?
We're doing it because of me.
Okay, so I'm not losing my mind.
Nope,
All right.
nope. Normally, we would do it.
That's debatable I am anyway.
Normally, the discussion would be in, I think, May and June.
May.
So
Okay.
we've had to accelerate things, but I thought it would be
No.
best to have these
I get it.
conversations now.
Okay, this just seemed early
It is.
too,
It is.
but now
We're
I
so
understand.
efficient.
I get
We
it.
are. We're so amazing. Proud of us.
I don't know about the we part.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Great discussion. Thank you, Brittany, for leading that. Communications and miscellaneous business is authorized by law. I don't have anything. Brittany, anything else under that?
Just that I am looking to do a half-day in-service before I leave, hopefully in May. So that would just mean the library opening late one morning. Just want to get us squared away, do a little bit of training. If you recall, we didn't do an in-service last year due to my just not being able to fit it in. And there's just some training that I want to do before I leave and get us prepared for summer reading. So it'll just be a half-day. We'll get that on the calendar. So, and inform the public thusly.
All right. Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment, please.
Motion?
Thank you. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
I was gonna do it just because, I gotta sit here now for how long?
Well, if the motion passes, we're adjourned at 6:23. Let's call it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Great meeting. Everyone, 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 great meeting.